Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're tackling idioms.
Oh, those are fun.
They are, but they can be tricky too, especially if you're not a native English speaker.
Right, because you can't just translate them word for word.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like you have to understand the meaning behind the whole phrase, not just the individual word.
That's what makes them so interesting, though. They
Hmm.
give you a real glimpse into the culture.
And the humor.
Yeah, for sure.
So, our source material today is English for Everyone, English Idioms.
Oh, nice. I like that book. Lots of good examples.
Yeah, tons. And we're going to unpack why these phrases are so important if you really want to master English.
And sound more natural, like a native speaker.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. The book starts with this idiom, a piece of cake. And it uses the example, unclogging my sink was a piece of cake for Carlita. She's a plumber.
But obviously there was no cake involved.
Right. So what does it actually mean?
It means something is easy, effortless.
Ah, okay. Like easy as pie.
Exactly. Or a walk in the park.
I see. So there's this theme of pleasant, simple activities. And they're being used to describe how easy something is to do.
Yeah. And that's pretty common in idioms, using familiar images to explain more complex ideas.
It makes me wonder, though, are those idioms universal?
Yeah.
Would someone from a different culture understand what a piece of cake means?
That's a great question. Some idioms might be based on very specific cultural experiences, so maybe not those. But the idea of using imagery to convey ideas, that's pretty universal, I'd say.
Okay, so a piece of cake is, I'd say, a pretty straightforward idiom. What about something like, let the cat out of the bag?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, the book gives the example of, keeping a surprise holiday a secret. But I always picture an actual cat being shoved into a bag.
Huh. Well, the image does kind of work, right? Like, you're accidentally revealing a secret. It's almost as if the secret wants to escape, like a cat trying to get out of a bag.
You're right, and I guess that's why idioms are so powerful. They create such vivid images.
Exactly. They pack a punch, and some of them, like judge a book by its cover, are almost like mini morality tales.
Oh, totally. The book uses a scary-looking but gentle dog as an example.
Perfect example. Because we've all been fooled by appearances before.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it makes you think, is using an idiom like that more effective than just saying, like, don't judge people based on how they look?
That's a good question. What do you think?
I think there's something about the imagery that makes it stick,
Oh.
you know? It's more memorable.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it taps into this shared cultural understanding.
Exactly. Everyone knows that saying.
So it's like a shortcut to communication.
Right. But with added flair.
I like that. Shortcut to communication with added flair. All right, let's talk about some idioms that relate to health, like feeling under the weather.
Oh, yeah. That one's a classic.
Yeah, the book gives the example of someone leaving work early because they're not well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that one is it kind of softens the blow of saying you're sick.
Right.
But
It's more subtle.
it's almost poetic, Like, instead of being blunt, you're using this metaphor of, like, weather affecting your mood.
And maybe even a bit humorous, too.
Yeah. It's definitely not as serious as saying, I'm sick.
Okay, I have to admit, some idioms just make me hungry. Like, I could eat a horse. The book uses the example of someone ordering a giant pizza because they're starving.
That one's so funny. Now, that idiom's origin might be worth exploring. I wonder where it came from.
Yeah, do you think it comes from a time when food was really scarce?
Maybe. Or maybe it's just playing on, like, the sheer size of a horse to express extreme hunger.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the latter. It's almost comedic to imagine someone actually devouring a horse.
Right. It definitely paints a vivid picture.
Speaking of vivid pictures, what about those idioms that describe, barely making it, like by the skin of your teeth?
Oh, yeah. That one's intense.
The book's example is about someone catching a train just before it leaves the station.
Ooh, I can just imagine the feeling. That sense of urgency, right?
Right, like escaping a close call by the tiniest margin.
Yeah. And it makes you think about how language can convey those feelings of, like, relief and adrenaline so effectively.
It's like you can almost feel your heart racing as they make it onto the train just in time. Now, this next one is about something that happens, well, less frequently. Once in a blue moon. The book uses the example of someone who rarely cooks at home.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It connects to, like, natural phenomena, right?
Yeah.
A blue moon, which is the second full moon in a month, it's rare.
Right.
So it perfectly illustrates something that happens infrequently.
And I bet that idiom makes it easier for people to remember, like, how infrequent something is compared to just saying, this happens very rarely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Idioms add that extra layer of memorability, and sometimes they're even a little bit superstitious, like break a leg.
Oh, yeah.
The book specifically mentions it being used for stage performances.
It seems counterintuitive, right? Like you're wishing someone good luck by telling them to break a bone.
I know. It's so funny. But it's so ingrained in the theater world.
Yeah.
That one is fascinating because it touches on, like, the psychology of superstition, right?
Yeah.
In some cultures, directly wishing someone good luck, it's considered bad luck.
Oh, wow.
So this phrase offers a roundabout way to express that sentiment.
So it's like a coded message that everyone in the theater understands.
Yeah. But for someone outside that world, it would be very confusing.
Right. Speaking of understanding, I'm curious, how do you think idioms affect communication between, like, native and non-native speakers?
That's a great question. Idioms can be one of the biggest hurdles for language learners.
Oh,
They
definitely.
can't be translated literally, and they often rely on cultural knowledge that someone might not have.
Right.
But on the flip side, mastering idioms can be a huge boost to fluency and confidence.
For sure. It's like, you're in the club, you know the secret handshake.
Right, exactly. And you
Mhm.
start to appreciate the humor,
Oh,
the
yeah.
nuances that idioms bring to the language.
Totally. It's not just about understanding the meaning, though, right? It's
Yeah.
about being able to use them
Oh, absolutely.
in conversation
Yeah, you got to use them naturally.
so that you sound like a native speaker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Develop that intuitive sense
Right.
of when and how to use them.
Okay, so let's dive into some more. These are some idioms that describe personalities
Okay.
and relationships.
Stuff good.
We'll start with a tough cookie.
Okay.
The book uses the example of someone who can handle criticism well.
Hmm.
I kind of feel like that one's a bit gendered, though.
Oh, that's interesting. It does seem like tough cookie is more often applied to women, right?
Yeah.
It might be worth thinking about why that is. Does it reflect certain societal expectations or stereotypes?
Yeah. It's like the idiom itself is carrying some cultural baggage.
Interesting.
Maybe there's a more neutral way to describe someone who's resilient.
Right, right.
But for now, let's move on to a phrase that's all about agreement.
Okay.
Seeing eye to eye. The book gives the example of a boss and an employee agreeing on office recycling.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It paints such a clear picture of harmony and shared understanding.
Right.
It's like you're literally looking at the world from the same perspective.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, though.
Yeah.
What happens when people don't see eye to eye? What are some idioms that describe conflict or disagreement?
Ooh, tons. Butting heads
Oh, yeah.
or being at odds.
Right.
It's interesting how those idioms use physical metaphors to
Right.
describe like an intellectual or emotional clash.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's switch gears and talk about money.
Ooh, money.
There's that classic idiom, cost an arm and a leg.
Oh, yeah.
The book uses the example of an expensive suit.
Makes sense.
That one always makes me laugh. It's so exaggerated,
Right.
but it captures that feeling perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you spend way too much money on something.
I know. It's so true. It's a great example of how idioms can use humor
Right.
to soften the blow
Right.
of a negative situation. Instead of just saying it was expensive, you use this hyperbolic phrase.
Yes.
That makes it almost comical.
It's like you're turning your financial pain into a funny story. Now, how about steal someone's thunder? The book talks about someone taking credit for another person's research.
Ooh, that idiom is all about feeling cheated,
Oh, yeah.
overshadowed,
Uh-huh.
like someone stole your spotlight
Oh,
and is now basking in the glory.
totally.
That should have been yours.
It's a terrible feeling.
It is. And the idiom does such a great job of conveying that sense of injustice and frustration.
Yeah. It also highlights how language can be used to express not just ideas, but also emotions.
Yes. Idioms can pack a real emotional punch,
They do.
which can be really helpful when you're trying to make a point or tell a story.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some idioms that describe efficiency
Okay.
and nervousness. We've got on the ball,
All right.
which the book illustrates with someone who never makes mistakes at work.
That one suggests competence, alertness,
Mhm.
being ready to handle anything that comes your way.
Yeah, it's like they have this
Yeah.
extra gear
Right.
that most people don't.
They're always one step ahead.
But even the most competent people sometimes get nervous, right?
Surely.
Like having butterflies in your stomach.
Oh, I love that one.
The book gives the example of someone going on a date.
Oh, so relatable.
It's amazing how an idiom can evoke such a specific physical sensation
I know,
with just a few words.
you can actually feel those butterflies flitting around in your stomach.
And that's the power of idioms. They create these vivid images and connections
Right.
that make language more engaging and memorable. Speaking of memorable images,
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful for our listeners
Okay.
if we did a quick recap of some of the idioms we've covered so far.
Oh, yeah, good idea. So we started with a piece of cake
Right?
for something easy.
Uh-huh.
Let the cat out of the bag
Yes.
for revealing a secret.
Yes.
And judge a book by its cover
Right.
to avoid, superficial judgments.
Uh-huh.
We also touched on break a leg
Oh, yeah.
for wishing someone good luck in the theater.
Yeah, one of the more unusual ones for sure.
Right. And then we explored some idioms related to health and well-being.
Yes.
Like feeling under the weather for not feeling well.
Right.
You eat a horse
Yeah.
for extreme hunger.
Yeah.
And by the skin of your teeth for a narrow escape.
And we delved into idioms that describe different frequencies
Yes.
with once in a blue moon, representing something rare,
Right.
and every now and then signifying something that occurs occasionally.
We also tackled some idioms that describe personalities and relationships.
Yes.
Such as a tough cookie for someone resilient.
Right.
See eye to eye for agreement.
Uh-huh.
And steal someone's thunder for taking credit for someone else's ideas.
And let's not forget the idioms related to money and cost. Like
Yes.
cost an arm and a leg
Right.
for something expensive,
Yeah.
and break the bank for something that's financially draining.
Phew. We've covered a lot of ground,
I know, right?
but we're not done yet.
Oh, no.
There are so many more fascinating idioms out there
I bet.
just waiting to be explored.
It is amazing how many we've covered, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Right, I know. Once you start paying attention,
Yeah.
you realize they're everywhere.
Everywhere. Like it's this secret code you've unlocked.
Exactly. A whole new layer of meaning and expression.
And it's not even just understanding the meaning. It's about being able to use them confidently, appropriately in conversation.
Yes. When you really start to internalize them.
Yeah, totally. Okay, but speaking of tools, and this is funny because we're talking about language as a tool, but we haven't talked about idioms related to learning and knowledge.
That's a good point. There's so many.
There's so many.
Like hit the books.
Learn the road.
Wrap your head around something.
Yes. What do you think those idioms tell us about how people view the process of learning?
That's a good question. It seems like a lot of them use physical actions as metaphors for mental processes. Like hitting the books suggests effort, intensity.
Yeah.
While learning the ropes implies a gradual process of, acquiring knowledge and skill.
It's like we're trying to make this abstract act of learning more concrete, relatable, by using these physical analogies. But then some idioms are about quick bursts of insight.
Oh, yeah, like a light bulb moment.
Yes, it captures that feeling so well when something just clicks.
Yeah, and then there's connect the dots.
Oh, yeah.
Which is more deliberate piecing together information.
Yeah, so there's this whole spectrum
Exactly.
of approaches to learning.
Which highlights the richness and diversity of idioms as a whole. They reflect the complexity of human thought and experience.
In a way that few other linguistic tools can.
Yeah, for sure.
I am in awe of the power of idioms.
You too.
There's so much more
they're essential.
than just quirky sayings.
Yes. For effective communication, cultural understanding, and even personal expression.
They really do add
color,
depth, personality
to our language.
Make it more vibrant and engaging.
Living, breathing thing.
Yes, constantly evolving.
Adapting.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of idioms.
Yes. Pay attention to them.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself to understand them, their meaning, origins.
Origins, yes.
And don't be afraid to use them.
Yes.
In your conversation.
If you're writing?
In your writing.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll even coin an idiom and leave your mark.
Yes. On the tapestry of the English language.
Until then.
Yes.
Happy idiom hunting.
Bye, everyone.